12 criminally underrated monster and creature horror movies after the 2000s. There's nothing better than a thrilling monster flick to give you the perfect adrenaline rush. The thrill of seeing a vicious creature hunt down helpless victims has been a scene stealer for ages now. They also come with simplistic storytelling and unique special effects that make these creature features all the more special. When we think of monster and creature horror movies, the 70s and 80s come to mind immediately. Those were the days when you could grab a couple of beers and indulge in some guilty pleasures, and the movies just kept coming. After 2000, there have been some hidden gems that went comparatively unnoticed. In this video, we'll take you through some entries of the modern era, where we experience the same heart-in-your-mouth moments that made this genre so popular to begin with. Before we go into our list, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click from you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you. Let's begin. Reign of Fire, 2002. 12-year-old Quinn Abercrombie felt guilty about the hibernating dragon that was awakened because of the construction dig organized by his mother. The dragon and its offspring destroyed much of the world with their blazing fires, and the story skips 20 years into the future. These fire-breathing dragons seem unstoppable, and humanity is now restricted to some isolated outposts where they stay put along with the survivors. Help appears in the strangest form as a group of rogue American fighters show up. They are led by Von Zahn, the man who is believed to have killed a dragon. His fighting force claims to know a way to slay the serpentine beasts, and Quinn's help is enlisted. Can Quinn confront his own frightening memories as a child and help in defeating the beings that destroyed the world? We all can appreciate a narrative that has the quality to blend medieval mythology with the modern era effortlessly. Reign of Fire does that and creates a unique premise where humans have been removed from the top of the food chain. The story is more post-apocalyptic in nature, where dragons burn everything to the ground. The star-studded cast needs no introduction, and the likes of Gerard Butler, Christian Bale, and Matthew McConaughey are breathtakingly perfect as usual. And we have no complaints regarding the special effects that seem rather flawless. The dragons in particular look surprisingly realistic, and the director Rob Bowman seems at home with such a subject matter. While we're used to seeing dragons with 4 legs, the ones here only have 2, and many think them to be wyverns. The set designs are simply awesome, and the makers clearly save the best for last because the film boils down to a nail-biting finale. Reign of Fire doesn't waste time trying to be funny or goofy, and it's a straightforward story of 2 groups fighting till the bitter end. If such a concept interests you, go for this innovative sci-fi drama, and the dragons will be an added bonus to your experience. Krampus, 2015. A torn and dysfunctional family gathers for the holidays, but the constant clashes between them dampen the spirits of Christmas. Young Max wrote a letter to Santa, but he was so frustrated with all the fights that he turned his back on the holiday spirit. This summons something dreadful, the ancient demonic force called Krampus that is intent on punishing non-believers. As hell breaks loose and the holiday icons take monstrous forms, it is time for the family to bury their differences and fight for one another. Can they come out of this mess unharmed? The film might have had a bright Christmas background, but the narrative is anything but cheery. In fact, this can be counted as a mainstream horror flick that looks like a cross between Gremlins and Night of the Living Dead. We hadn't seen a movie like this in ages, and this masterpiece is at par with some of the best we have caught over the years. Christmas horror is not a new concept, but this is one of the first times that Christmas had its own traditional villain, Krampus. He punishes those who have been naughty, and he's been doing so for thousands of years. The appearance of the Krampus was remarkable, with its cloven hooves and hook chains on a horned creature. His claw-like hands and red eyes give him a demonic look, and he doesn't come alone. He's accompanied by an army of wicked, sadistic elves. The direction by Michael Dougherty, who also made Trick or Treat, is quite engaging, and the rich variety of monsters is fun to watch. The only thing that was a letdown for us was the climax that could have been way better. Krampus was not made for the Oscars, but if you want some harmless fun along with the jitters, don't miss out on it. The Babadook, 2014. Amelia had a tragic car accident where she lost her husband as they headed for the birth of their son Samuel. She struggles to bring him up as a single mother, and Samuel seems to have an overbearing fear of monsters. This distances her from her friends, and Amelia suffers from depression. She had the habit of reading a bedtime story to her son, and one day Samuel handed her the mysterious book called Mr. Babadook. It is the tale of a strange supernatural entity, and Samuel is convinced that it is haunting their house as well. Slowly, even Amelia seems to be affected by the Babadook, and their nightmarish experiences continue. Is the monster real, or is it just a manifestation of her own insecurities and anger? This is one monster flick that was never intended for the mainstream crowd. It lacks all the qualities of an entertaining creature feature, and you will find neither the scary monsters nor the usual jump scares. The narrative successfully taps into your deepest fear and explores the truly terrifying things in life, such as sorrow, loneliness, and despair. The Babadook wouldn't have been possible without some incredible acting by Essie Davis, and the way Jennifer Kent masters some of the shots proves her credentials as a director. We hate to spoil it for you, but Amelia is actually possessed by a personality disorder that was triggered by the traumatic loss of her husband. The monster is just a deeply troubled mother creating her own demons in her head, and the idea is fascinating. The appearances of the monster shown in the movie are quite spooky, but it was merely an embodiment of grief. The scenes where the monster takes over Amelia's mind will give you the jitters, and it is hard to accept that it is more of a psychological thriller. This is one of the finest instances of brilliance in modern horror films, and it reinstates our faith in the genre one more time. The Crazies, 2010. Following a plane crash, some strange incidents seem to take place in Pierce County, Iowa. A local named Rory Hamill threatens the community with a gun all of a sudden at a baseball game, and the sheriff has to kill him. His wife witnesses another individual named Bill exhibiting unexplained behavior. The same night, Bill locks up his wife and son inside the house and burns it down. They soon find out that the plane that crashed was carrying some kind of biological weapon, and it has impacted the population. So the army is brought in and the people are imprisoned in concentration camps. However, the sheriff, his deputy, his wife, and her medical assistant manage to escape the confinement. There seems to be no cure for those who are getting affected by the containment and going crazy, and the group of four tries to break the containment zone to reach the next town. You would think that remaking a George A. Romero movie is not complicated, and you're right. The charm of this film is in its simplicity, and it is the purest form of horror with funny references or unnecessary sexualization. The narrative heads straight to the outbreak of insanity, and since then, it simply goes on to portray how the social fabric of the town is shattered quickly. We loved the way this film explored its titular crazies. Each one of them seems to react differently to the virus, and while some are completely mad, others bear some semblance of a thought process. It was so easy to turn this into another brain-dead zombie flick, but the director carefully averted the course. There are some tense set pieces and some cheap jump scares that are thrown in just to ruffle your feathers. It is a fitting tribute to the 1973 classic by George A. Romero, and you must make time to watch this exhilarating and terrifying drama. Dead Silence, 2007. So many small towns have their own scary folklore, and the one around Ravens Fair is about a lady named Mary Shaw. She was a ventriloquist, and after she went crazy, she was accused of kidnapping a young boy. She was then hunted down by the townsmen, and they killed her mercilessly. Since then, the town has seen numerous mysterious deaths, and it seems like she has come back from the dead to enact her revenge. Jamie and Lisa were hoping to build a new family, but Lisa was found brutally murdered in their apartment. Jamie returns back to the town and tries to get to the root of the mystery surrounding her death, whilst also being pursued himself by a detective who suspects him. Will he be able to deal with the legend of Mary Shaw and end it for good? This movie is what we would like to call nightmare fuel. There are so many sequences that activate your wild imaginations that you're all set for a few scary ones in the nights to come. Dead Silence has an intriguing storyline, and the antagonist as a creepy ventriloquist with a collection of creepy dolls is quite haunting. The heavy atmosphere is further magnified by the eerie music, and the mise-en-scene is simply surreal. The narrative does not shy away from gore, and while it was not gratuitous, it did make things scarier. We found the acting performances to be a bit lacking, but if you compare it with some of the sad horror attempts in the recent past, it's not all that terrible. Dead Silence is directed and written by James Wan and Lee Whannell, the guys who brought about the Saw series. They know their way around horror classics and use everything from the chilling storyline to the jump scares to lure fans. The portrayal of Mary Shaw was nothing less than perfect, and you would have to be lion-hearted to not flinch when she attacks. If you have a fear of dolls or a weak heart, maybe it's wise to skip this horror gem. Sinister, 2012. Ellison Oswalt is a notable crime author, but of late he's been struggling to put together his next book. He moves with his entire family to a small town in Pennsylvania into a house that has been a horrific crime scene. His family is completely unaware of the murder that took place there, and he hopes to have something to write with the source of his plot so close to him. Oswalt starts researching about the owners who were killed and one day finds a box of home movies that has footage of the gruesome murders. He develops an obsession and discovers clues that point to the involvement of occultist forces. It may be a little more than he bargained for, and his family might also be under some threat from the entities that slaughtered the previous occupants. Sinister is a typical old-school horror that scares you without the usual gore and goofiness. It is all about a great story combined with impressive acting performances managed by some credible direction. Ethan Hawke is brilliant as the protagonist, and his character has an interesting blend of humanity and fragility. The scary moments might be scarce, but they're effective when they come. The chilling tone of the narrative is set right from the opening scene, and you have to trust us when we say that it is simply terrifying. Some of the footage used is unsettling, and the lighting complements the narrative beautifully. Bagul, also known as Mr. Boogie, is the main villain in this movie, and is an ancient Babylonian pagan deity that consumes the souls of children. It developed into a vicious demon that had the ability to influence children to murder their own families, and then these children would be transported to the netherworld. This tall humanoid creature with pale skin and long hair has no mouth, and thus we never hear its voice. It helps in creating a mystifying aura around his personality, and we simply see him as a dangerous evil force. Sinister is worth watching for the antagonist alone, and you wouldn't want to miss it at any cost. If you are a fan of the iconic works of H.P. Lovecraft, this is a must-watch for you by all means. Creep, 2004. Kate is heading home after a late-night party where she had a lot to drink. While waiting for the train, she falls asleep in the subway station and wakes up to find that the doors have been locked for the night. Now that she is trapped in the London Underground, a colleague who had followed her inside tries to attack. However, a strange, unseen creature drags him away and kills him. Thus begins a terrifying ordeal where Kate and a stranded homeless couple do their best to avoid the mysterious creature. They move through the dark tunnels of the subway, and this murderous creature stalks them in the dark. This movie is an absolute shocker, and the dark and disturbing narrative might give you a few sleepless nights. It takes no time to get going, and soon you'll be a part of the journey of Kate, who is caught in a terrifying situation. The tense, claustrophobic atmosphere is present all through the 90 minutes of runtime, but somewhere in the middle, the thriller becomes a gore fest. There are no clear explanations provided about a lot of things in this movie, but it is fair for a horror writer to not feel compelled to spoon-feed every little detail to the viewer. There are enough clues that point to the origin of this evil creature, and retention of a little mystery never hurts. The ravenous monster is hideous and nauseating, and his primitive appearance is fascinating in a way. It's up to you to guess its background, and the severe butchering it indulges in makes it quite convincing. We loved the ominous setting of a deserted London subway, and Christopher Smith's impeccable direction makes sure there is never a dull moment. If the ending doesn't surprise you enough, we don't know what will. Animal, 2014. Jeff and his stepsister Alyssa head to the woods for a hiking trip along with their friends Sean, Matt, and Mandy. The constant bickering over the route and other hindrances ensure that they can't get back to their car before sunset. Their problems multiply when they realize that a vicious predator is on the prowl. Jeff is the first to be killed, and the others dash to an isolated cabin where they find 3 other survivors who have managed to evade the monster. The predator keeps attacking the weak points of the hut, and the group tries to fend off the creature while calling for help in vain. However, However, the body count keeps rising, and the mismatched team must fight together if they're to have a chance of defending themselves against the bloodthirsty nightmare outside. Even the biggest fan of this movie can't really call it an original effort, but Animal never pretends to be unique. It is a typical creature feature where people are lost in the woods and an alien-predator hybrid picks them off one by one. The narrative is entertaining and thrilling, and we were awed by the titular entity being discussed. The special effects team certainly did a great job putting this strange mutation together, and it looked a bit too realistic for comfort. It almost served as a warning against deforestation because the woods where they went hiking were about to be chopped off. The climactic moments are so full of action that you will forget about any minor flaws in the storytelling. As for the cast, Elizabeth Gillies was impressive and the others were decent. The makers could have done a better job of explaining where the monster came from. However, Animal is a B-movie, and as long as you're okay with it simply paying homage to the genre, it might be a fun film to watch.
Come on, come on! Come on!
The Monster, 2016. Kathy is a victim of addiction, and she's supposed to drive her teenage daughter Lizzie to her separated husband. Their journey begins on a rainy night, and not long into their travel, they hit a wolf while passing through the woods. Their car is broken, and Kathy calls 911 to request assistance with a tow truck and an ambulance. During this time, the wolf mysteriously disappears, and when the tow truck arrives, the mechanic is hunted down by a monster. Kathy and Lizzie soon realize that they're in the middle of nowhere fighting a vicious beast, and there seems to be no help arriving soon. The stuck in a car with a monster outside plot has been used time and again in horror film history. What sets this one apart is the direction that crafts an intense sense of tension throughout the narrative. The atmospheric lighting and sets enhance the suspense, and the camera work is fascinating. The titular critter makes multiple appearances, and they range from decent to rather silly at times. However, what impressed us the most was that such a modern movie opted for practical effects instead of CGI. This monster is a savage beast that wants to kill anything that enters its forest territory. It looked like a large reptile with scaly skin and yellow fangs, along with long limbs and sharp claws that helped it brutalize its victims. Besides the thrill ride, the story is also about how a crisis brings a mother and daughter closer. The makers could have used better dialogue, and at times the monster does look rubbery and fake. This film is flawed by all means, but you could always dive deeper to excavate the gem. We felt that the real monster was Kathy's addiction, and it kept attacking when she was vulnerable.
This is all the time we had for today's episode. We hope you guys liked it. It would be awesome if you guys can take some time to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to tell us which topic you want us to cover in the comment section. Have a fantastic day ahead and stay safe.